Welcome to ICI Podcast. Today we are going to be going over the seventh seal, which starts off right out of the gate, and then also the first four trumpets. And this is what is covered in Revelation 8. And so let's just dive right in. If you are joining me here live today, feel free to put any comments in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them. So let's get started. So again, Revelation 8, the seventh seal, and the first four trumpets. So the seven trumpets are in response to the question that was asked in Revelation 6, 9, and 10, which was by the martyrs who were underneath the altar, which was a symbolic place that they were. But they asked, how much longer before you judge those who live on the earth? And so the seven trumpets is all about that response. So in these seven trumpets, they're also a historical journey, just like the seven seals were in the seven churches. Whereas the seven seals signified the progress of preaching of the gospel on earth, and the consequences of those who claim to be God's people who were not actually, and rejecting his message. The seven trumpets are God's judgments on those who just straight out rejected God. And the trumpets are part of God's work in giving them a chance to come back to him. So in essence, they are warnings that time is running out for them. Also, to note, these seven judgments happen in thirds, signifying that they are not final judgments. So let's read about this first seal. So when the seventh seal is opened, there is silence in heaven for about a half an hour. Notice when the first seal is opened, when the first seal is actually opened, it was announced with a loud noise of thunder. So this last seal is met with silence. Why is that? So if you recall in Revelation 7, an angel from the east calls out to the four angels that are holding back the four winds to hold on until God's people are sealed. And then in Revelation 6, during the sixth seal, the sky is rolled back like a scroll, and the lost are crying out for the rocks to fall on them, and for the great day of his wrath. For the great day of his wrath has come. So let's go look at Matthew 25, 30 through 31 as a clue as to why it is silent in heaven for that time period. So then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then all the people of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, which we just talked about in Revelation 6. You see them asking for the rocks to follow them. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, referencing trumpets here, and they will gather his elect from those four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. Okay, so you see, okay, so all of his angels appear to be with him, right? Now, in Revelations 4 through 5, these same angels and elders are before the throne, praising him and worshiping him. So there's no silence. But now there is silence, because why? The angels are not there. They're with Jesus, getting God's elect people. So that is more than likely the reason why there is silence in heaven during that time period, because the angels are all with Jesus, picking up his saved ones. Okay, so that was the seventh seal being opened. Now the next verses are in regards to the next four trumpets. Or the first four trumpets. So in verse 2, John sees the seven angels standing before the throne of God, and they are each given a trumpet. And there's another angel standing in front of the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. Note, this is a sanctuary scene. The altar of incense is located in the holy place, just before the veil to the most holy place. So this helps to show that the start of these trumpets occurs before the close of probation, as opposed to the latter, as some interpretations would suggest. because it is showing this altar of incense in the holy place. And the smoke of the incense which came up with the prayers of the saints went up before God, which came from the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it to the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightning and earthquake. So again, you can see here that the trumpets are in response to the saints' prayers that we discussed earlier. And 7 angels with their trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So the first angel sounds his trumpet. And there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, which was thrown to the earth. And a third part of the trees and green grass were burned up. And again, notice it's only a third. So the Bible compares, and this is, a lot of this is symbolic language. The Bible compares people to trees in the Bible in several passages, such as Psalms 1:3. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in its season, whose leaves also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. So comparing people to trees. Or there's Psalms 37:35. I've seen the wicked in great power and spreading himself like a native green tree. So these trees and grass signify people. And again, these are judgments. And the first trumpet lines with the judgment on Jerusalem, the destruction of the city in 70 AD because of the religious leaders who rejected Jesus. And you recall in John 1:11, it says, he came to his own people and even they rejected him. So the first trumpet is a judgment, most likely against Jerusalem in 70 AD. So the second angel sounds his trumpet, and it was something like a great mountain burning with fire that was thrown into the sea, and a third part of the sea turned to blood. And a third part of the creatures that were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. So in the Bible, mountains can symbolize nations, empires, powers, like you see there's a couple examples here, biblical examples. So Ezekiel 35:2-3 says, the word of the Lord came to me, son of man, set your face against Mount Seir, prophesy against it, and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I'm against you, Mount Seir, and I will stretch out my hand against you and make you a desolate waste. And Jeremiah 51:25 says, then the iron, the clay, the bronze, the silver, and the gold were all broken to pieces and became like chaff on a threshing floor in the summer. The wind swept them away without leaving a trace, but the rock that struck the statue became a huge mountain and filled the whole earth, which is not the right verse. I am going to have to go look at this again. Jeremiah 51:25, what it was referring to was Babylon. Check myself here because that doesn't sound right. 51, whoops. Jeremiah 51:25. And don't find it, I'll come back. Okay, here it is. Behold, I am against you. That was Daniel 2, actually, the one that I was reading you. But that was also talking about a mountain. But behold, I'm against you, O destroying mountain, declares the Lord, which destroys the whole earth. I will stretch out my hand against you and roll you down from the crags and make you a burnt mountain. So this mountain here, this nation, this ruling power, it is regarding Babylon is what he's talking about here. So you can see that the mountains can symbolize, again, nations, powers, empires. And the sea, is a mass and a tumult of people. So in Isaiah 17:12, you see, woe to the multitude of many people who make a noise like the roar of the seas, and to the rushing of nations, that making a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters. So seas, waters, a mass of people. And ships represent pride and self-sufficiency, commerce, taking out their self-sufficiency. So in this case, because of course they're not looking to God for their sufficiency. So in this case, it's referring to the judgment against Rome and the fall of Rome as a great power because of the persecutions against Christians. So here's the third trumpet now. A third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell into a third part of the rivers and on the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is wormwood, and a third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were poisonous. So again, if you want to look, you can always, to understand one part of the Bible, it always will reflect back to several other parts in the Bible to help you understand what it is you're reading. So Isaiah 14:12 says, "How you have fallen from heaven, O morning star." So it says the name of the star is wormwood. Satan was referred to a star as a star. It also talks about in Revelation 12 about how the dragon was cast from heaven with a third of his angels. Note that symbolic number, a third. So all of these trumpets, these first four trumpets, the destruction is a third. A third of the angels, the demons, were cast out of heaven. So it's an interesting corollary. Same trumpets, judgment by thirds, a third of the angels. And then Deuteronomy 29:17-18 says, "And you saw their abominations and the idols which were among them, wood and stone and silver and gold, so that they may not be among you man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away today from the Lord our God to go and serve the gods of these nations. And there may not be among you a root-bearing bitterness or wormwood." So this symbolized a completely corrupted Christianity, a spiritual death among men. They were poisoned by false doctrines, apostasy, idolatry, and a rejection of God's way. So this fourth angel, this final trumpet in Revelation 8, there's three more that we're going to talk about in Revelation 9 and 11. But the fourth angel sounds his trumpet, and a third part of the sun was darkened, and a third part of the moon, and a third of the stars, that a third part of the day might not shine, and a third of the night likewise. So this symbolizes spiritual darkness. Truth and access to the truth was obscured, and people were just generally falling away from God. They were embracing atheism, secularism, agnostic, just a general falling away of any type of relationship or knowing God or even wanting to know who God was. And that is what is just a spiritual darkness, referring to this darkness of the star, the sun, and the moon. So also, and then this last trumpet, for trumpet 4, and John saw and heard an angel flying through the midst. Well, excuse me, that was the last trumpet. So this last verse here says, "And John saw and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, 'Woe, woe, woe to those who live on earth because of the rest of the three angels who are about to blow their trumpets.'" And these three woes are the next three trumpets, again, which we'll cover in Revelations 9 and 11, which is much worse than the last four trumpets that we just now discussed. So I will be with you next week at Friday around 11-ish live to start digging into those next three trumpets. And you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you again next time.